Ready? Okay, go.
नमस्कार, समीक्षा में आपका स्वागत है। आज का विषय बाइडेन हैरिस अ विनिंग टिकट। हमारे आज के मेहमान हैं श्री ऋषि अग्रवाल, समीक्षा की प्रस्तुति हेलो एंड प्रोग्राम प्रोड्यूसर श्रीमान बिरेन शाह। श्री ऋषि अग्रवाल शिकागो के जाने माने वकील हैं। राजनीति में भी इनकी काफी रुझान है। सन 2018 में कुक काउंटी जज के लिए इन्होंने चुनाव लड़ा और एक विशाल बहुमत प्राप्त किया। सामाजिक कार्यों में भी आप काफी रुचि रखते हैं। इंडो अमेरिकन सेंटर के आप वाइस प्रेसिडेंट हैं। मैं हूं जितेंद्र बेदी। आइए मिलते हैं श्री ऋषि अग्रवाल से। हाय ऋषि।
Hello, how are you?
I am fine, doing good. I hope you're doing fine as well.
I am doing very well as we can in this situation that we're all in, right? This is crazy for everybody. But,
by the way, today is 15th of August 2020. Yeah. It is India's Independence Day, and a very, very happy Independence Day to you, as well as to all the listeners and viewers on Hello NRI.
Same to you as well. Happy Independence Day to everybody. It's a very exciting day. We always love this time.
It is bringing us a lot of exciting news from all over, which is in fact, although we are infected, having the infected environment because of Corona, but the news coming in is so great and exciting that people are tending to forget that the Corona exists. And we are talking today is one of that topic itself, which is Harris-Biden ticket, which is a very, very great announcement. And I say that Biden-Harris ticket is a winning ticket. What are your views about that?
I think it's very exciting. It was very exciting that he selected Kamala Harris. I think a lot of people have reacted very positively. And I think it very much is a winning ticket. Absolutely. Very much so. Very excited about it.
I have seen that you have been involved in politics all your life. I mean, right from your student days and then your early attorney days. Of course, these days you are one of the leading attorneys of Chicago and you do all varieties of cases. We are very proud of you. And tell us from your political experience, how much you know about Kamala Harris, where she comes from, and where does she stand today? Tell our viewers something, what you know about her in depth.
Sure, and I'm very glad you asked that question because it's very important for your viewers and for your listeners to not just look at her as an Indian American candidate. She is someone who is incredibly qualified for this position. She first started as a district attorney in San Francisco. Then she became the Attorney General of California. And then, of course, rising to become one of the senators from California. And along each one of those steps, really gaining valuable experience as a prosecutor, as someone involved in the day-to-day system and the government, and really fighting for for her people, for her citizens. And really, I think out of all the potential vice president candidates that Biden had, I think her experience and qualifications are very exciting. One of the questions you always ask is you want someone who can take over as president, and she has that experience and she has those qualifications. So that makes me very excited about her.
What do you think about Biden picking up a woman candidate? I mean, this has been unprecedented that not only did he pick up women of color, but he also picked up one of the most exciting candidates, which has a strong profile. She's one candidate who is not new to elections. Like you are not new to elections. You fought a county election and you got a lot of votes in. And so she's not new to the election. She's not a rookie candidate. She has a strong profile. She has been into many congressional and senatorial hearings and encountered tough questions there and placed tough questions. So what do you think of the selection from that point of view?
I think it was great that he was committed to selecting a woman as his vice president candidate. I think it's so important that the administration reflects who we are as a country. You want not only the male perspective, you need the female perspective, you need the minority perspective, you need the immigrant perspective. And she brings all of that to the table, which is fantastic. And I think it was so important to make sure that those voices were included in this process. So I think that was great. But I also think that although it was really important for him to do this, it's also important to not just see her in that light, and to see her and think of her as someone who is just as qualified, if not more qualified, than any of the potential male candidates that there would have been for vice president. And I think it's so important to look at it in that way as well. So it's exciting, both from the gender and minority perspective. But I think what he really did well was finding someone that is incredibly qualified.
So when we compare the two candidates, now the election is just right at the doorstep now. We have one side Kamala Harris, and on the other side we have Mike Pence. So how do you compare the two?
I think that they are incredibly different people. I think their perspectives, their policies, their backgrounds are fundamentally different, and that's the decision that voters are going to have to make. Are you going to do you adopt and believe in and support and follow the policies and experience that Kamala Harris brings to the table? Mike Pence has a very different background. He has had much more of a conservative and a little bit more of a right-wing background than what Kamala Harris does. And the types of policies he supports, for whether it be economic policies, healthcare policies, foreign policy, I think it's just going to be a very clear choice between them. And I think that that's going to make it easier for the voters, because it's just a very black and white choice as far as what is your interest, what do you believe in, what do you want to support. It's going to be very clear. And I think what Harris is going to be able to do is she's going to be able to articulate that very well. I think, like as you were saying, her experience in Senate hearings and the type of questioning that she did at candidates, some people found that very exciting and very effective. Some people found her to be almost intimidating in some way. I mean, for me as an attorney, I have a lot of respect for how strong she was in those hearings. And I think that she's going to be able to tell the story of the Biden-Harris ticket very well. She's going to bring that passion and that ability to explain why it is that why it is that you should support them. And, and Mike Pence is going to tell his story as well, but they are incredibly different people.
And I think your views that you are expressing and the general feeling also is agreed to by the viewership also. We see Daljit Maan saying that it is time for change. And do you agree that it's time for change?
That's certainly my opinion. I strongly believe that it is time for change. But I respect everyone's views on this, and I think that everyone needs to determine for themselves what are their beliefs, what are their politics, what direction do they want to see our country go to. But I think what I often think about with the Biden-Harris ticket is when Joe Biden first announced his candidacy, he talked about that he's fighting for the soul of this country, and certainly there's fundamental differences between the policies, and there are people who are going to disagree with Trump and Pence, and there are people who are going to disagree with Biden and Harris. And that's certainly, valid, and everyone has their own views on these things. But, for me, there at some point becomes a breaking point where, the value and the character and the soul of the country is so fundamentally important. And I think Kamala Harris complements Joe Biden very well in that area. And I think, for me, it's time for change.
So what about the heritage that she comes from? Some people, in fact, I have seen that it has not only fired up the Indians, it has fired up the Jamaicans, it has fired up the mainstream Americans, it has fired up the African Americans. So with one shot, I think Vice President Biden, by selecting her, has created really a flurry of support for himself. Tell us how different ethnicities are accepting this particular selection and the ticket as well.
And that's one of the really exciting things about this selection. The fact that she represents different communities and brings them to the table. Now, for the Indian American community, for example, in the Indian community, it should absolutely be something that we're proud about and excited about. Should it be a reason to vote for her? I think it's a factor, but I think it's a smaller factor. I think at the end of the day, you have to vote for those candidates who are going to bring the policy and direction that you believe in and that you support. But I think it is a factor. I think it's okay to take a moment and just be like, wow, there is a woman of Indian American descent who has been named as the vice presidential candidate for the United States. That is simply an amazing moment. Jatinder, as you know, I have two daughters, and for them to be able to see someone who has an Indian American heritage, a woman that has an Indian American heritage, for her to be a candidate for this office, that's incredibly exciting. It's incredibly inspirational for them. The example that sets for them, and that, which is also very important, why we as a community, not only the Indian American community or the Jamaican or Black community, we need to embrace that, and we need to respect that, and we need to make sure that we don't allow this to become a negative. We don't want people to say, well, she's not American, or to do what we call otherizing someone, to make them feel like they don't belong, or that they're foreign, or that so we need to, I don't think anyone should vote for her just because she's Indian American, but I absolutely think it's a moment of pride, it's a moment of excitement, and it's a moment that will set a very important example for our children moving forward.
Yesterday she gave her first interview to one of the mainstream channel, MSNBC, and I was watching that. In that she says, I come from people. That was her statement. Yeah. And this is all about people. I'm for the people. And what I am is I'm from the people. So that's a very, very strong statement which she made yesterday. And I think that word people encompasses all ethnicities, especially the African Americans, and which should feel very, very proud of this particular selection. She was talking of her mother as well. And while she was in Berkeley, she was doing her studies in Berkeley. And that is the time when she said that her mother used to go and may take the delegations to meet the political leaders as well as the president, also they met, to demand the right to vote for the women. Yeah. So it is not Kamala Harris that comes from a particular descent or from a particular color or some ethnicity. It is Kamala Harris that coming down a prodigy where it is social service, cause for the people is inherited from her mother. What do you say about
that? I think that she tells the American experience. I think her parents and her own upbringing, her childhood, and what her experiences have been, it's the American experience. we may have an Indian heritage, we may have a Jamaican heritage, a Black heritage. These are all different aspects.
Rishi, there is a message for you from Patrick Speckhardt. He says, we are going to find an office for you to run now. You have a good friend following you.
Yes, he's a very good friend and a very, very good supporter. I appreciate those comments. But I think, it is the American experience. I think what I found really interesting about her mother's story is how she came here at a very young age to study at Berkeley, and that she was a very, very liberal, very progressive woman coming from progressive parents who were okay with her coming here at a young age by herself. I think setting that example, was really important. I think oftentimes, especially in the Indian and Asian American community, we have this misconception that our heritage is all about becoming a professional, making money, settling down, not causing any trouble, or as John Lewis says, causing good trouble. But what I think Kamala Harris's mom and her family tells the story of is that we have a very strong heritage of fighting for what your beliefs are. They don't have to be liberal beliefs. They can be conservative beliefs as well, and that's fine. You should fight for whatever your beliefs are. And that's one of the things that I really enjoyed about her story is that her family and her mom, coming from that, very liberal Indian family. And that is part of the Indian story. That's part of the Indian American story, and it's part of the American story. And that's what the country is learning more and more, is that we're hearing more of these stories, and how, although we may come from a little bit of a different background, there's so much that we share. There's so much that is common between all of us too. So I think that's one of the important things about what Joe Biden did, is he's helping to tell that American story in a much more broader way, which is very important.
One of the very strong factors that gives an Indian trait in her is cooking. I hope you know that she's a very good cook, by the way. I was looking at a documentary during her presidential bid, and they were showing her working in the kitchen and preparation. I think she was preparing chicken that time. And I said, oh man, she's a great cook. And I think Indians are a good cook with a lot of masalas and spices. And that connects also to India very, very well. So I hope, do you know anything, do you tell us something about her father? The Jamaica
So her
connection.
father, yes, no, absolutely. Her father had a very similar story as her mother, coming here to the country, into California, to study. Very successful and capable individual who, and I think the story that her father and mother shared was their desire to be a part of the change, to be a part of fighting for civil rights, be a part of taking part in these protests, and including their children in this process. That, that's one of the things that my wife and I try and do, is we always take our children to us when we go vote. We take them to different events and activities and protests and so forth. And her father and her mother shared that passion to be a part of what's going on, to be a part of that change. And I think that's what Kamala Harris has been carrying on, that her parents and both her father and her mother taught her, that she's now fighting for that and carrying on that tradition. She grew up, in her experience, in feeling the experience of a minority child in a minority family, and those experiences have really brought her to where she is today.
So, Rishi, tell us, are your daughters excited about her candidature? They being little children with Indian descent, and as well as she being grown up girl with Indian descent. So, how are they talking? How are the children talking about this?
I think they're very excited. I think they're very excited, and they see her and they see themselves in her, and I think that just brings so much comfort and so much excitement. We've had so much more involvement from the Indian community in politics in recent years, and they're feeling that, they're experiencing that. It's Jatinder, as you know, for my generation, our generation growing up, we didn't see that. We didn't see any of that. When we
So
didn't
you are
see. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
very deeply involved with the Indian community in social service, in the political equations, and so many other ways. Tell us, how is Indian community taking this ticket as? Are there oppositions in it, or is it a divided community on that?
So, it's really important, and we hear a lot about this in the Black community and in the Hispanic community. The Indian community is not a monolithic community. We have we have a very diverse community. We have people who come from different parts of India, different cultures in India, different religions in India. And so, of course, we're going to have a lot of diverse opinions as well. And that's completely fine. That's completely fine. I think the reaction people are having is, I think most people are very happy that we have an Indian American candidate. I think many, rightfully so, are saying that let's not vote for her just because she's Indian. And I agree with that. We shouldn't do that. And then, I think that it comes down to policy. I think there are some in our community who are very supportive of her positions and policies, and some who, have very strong beliefs about what should be happening in India and how our government should be supporting what's happening in India. And some may take issue with what her positions are with India, and I think that's understandable, and those are fair questions and comments to ask, and it's something that I hope we have a good conversation about in the Indian American community, because issues in India are not just about Modi. Issues in India are not just about the CAA or the NRC. There's economy, there's trade, there's healthcare, there's terrorism, there's immigration. The H-1B issue is such a significant issue, and we need to have a very full and deep conversation about what this means for India. And our community is having very different reactions. They're asking those questions. What is her position on issues in India? And a lot of people are asking those questions. And that's fair, but we need to have a good conversation about that. And we need to look at the whole picture of what she brings to the table, not just a few issues.
So, on August 6th, I think the Indian ambassador to United States, the current Indian ambassador to United States, he was addressing a mainstream American think tank where he said very limited trade agreements are going to take place very soon. Why this word limited? Do you think that under this ticket, which is Biden Harris ticket, the limited word will go away and the ambassador will be able to say that we have an enormous trade taking place? Tell us something about
Yeah, I think that's where I was going with this, taking a broader look at what these different candidates bring to the table. If you look at what happened during the Obama-Biden administration and their relationship with India, they significantly increased and built on trade, on military ties, taking positive steps towards in the immigration area. So I think that Biden and Harris recognize that that India is, of course, the largest democracy in the world. But I think what's really important is that they recognize the leadership that India brings to the world. They recognize how powerful India is, how strong they are, how strong their economy is and is going to continue to be, and how vital it is for America and India to partner, to become strong partners for the future. I think that the Republicans
Rishi,
and Trump and yeah, please go ahead.
from my connections with the Vice President Biden, his campaign, and the past elections, I am pretty deeply certain and know that Vice President Biden has an enormous experience in international affairs. He knows inside out the complete dynamics of the international equations. Tell me something about Kamala Harris. Tell us something about her exposure as well as experience at the international diplomacy, politics, and other equations.
Yeah, and you know, and I see that one of our great viewers has a comment, and I think I'll address that as well. I think a lot of people's reaction in our community has one of the questions they're asking is, does she and has she really represented our heritage in any way? I think unfortunately we haven't seen enough of that in the media, and so she in fact has been very intimately involved with the Indian community throughout her career. I can tell you as an attorney, the first organization she came to and got endorsed by for her first candidacy in San Francisco as a district attorney was from the Indian Lawyers Association in California. So she had
By the way,
long.
American Democratic Organization has also endorsed her from Chicago.
I'm sorry, say that again, Jatinder.
IADO, Indo-American Democratic Organization, Chicago, has equally endorsed her yesterday or day before.
Yeah, and I think when you listen, if you were to read her book, if you were to listen to her interviews and her speeches when she talks about her mother, when she talks about the trips that she made to India as a child, when she talks about taking walks with her grandfather, her Indian grandfather, and the influence that her Indian grandfather had on her as a child, and the importance of serving your community and the importance of service, which is something that was a huge impact on me, learning about my grandparents and what their involvement was with with fighting for independence in India and serving the community. So I take issue when someone says that she doesn't represent the Indian heritage, because I think we need to make a greater effort to learn her story and to tell her story. And that's why I really appreciate you doing this here today, because I don't think people are that familiar with her Indian American heritage and how deeply involved she actually has been with her Indian heritage and community.
I would like to add to what you have said, that it is not, she has not projected her Indian heritage, somebody said. It is not about flashing with a placard that I am Indian.
Right.
The mere fact that she's on the international stage, the mere fact that she's on the most important ticket of her lifetime, the biggest ticket, itself tells you that how important it is to be an Indian today. And she is very much representative of the fact of heritage. And she has not denied it. And she is there, up there. And I think these are the traits that she inherited from her IAS father, grandfather, mother, who have gone into building up of a personality and a professional which could stand up today to claim the ticket which she has claimed today.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is where we need to have a deeper respect for what our own heritage actually is, and the values that they bring, the lessons and the cultural roots that are there. I think she does express that, and I got to tell you, even more so than during her presidential campaign, because during her presidential campaign, you didn't see as much of a focus on it in the media. But since she's been announced as a VP candidate, there has been a much better and much greater focus on the fact that not only is she the first Black female candidate for vice president, but that she's also the first Indian American and Asian American candidate as well. And I think and I think that she has embraced that. Biden has embraced that, and we all have a different story. And and like you said, it's not about wearing a certain badge. It's about what are the values, and how has your history and how has your heritage brought you to be the person that you are today. And I think we can see that in her, that she has that background in her.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rishi Agarwal. You have been a great guest on our program today. This is the inaugural program of SAMEEKSHA, which will be on the 15th of August, 2020, which is India's Independence Day. Congratulations on giving us such opportunity to talk to you on such an important subject today, which is India's Independence Day. And also, we are grateful to you for your time and for all the inputs that you have given in such a depth to you, to us, as well as to our audience. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Jatinder. And last thing I want to say is, everyone, please vote. Whoever you're going to vote for, please vote. So important for us to get out there and do that. And thanks so much, Jatinder, for inviting me and allowing me to be a part of it.
Thank you.